From pitting his children against one another for his own enjoyment to literally exploiting his kids for money, these are all the times Homer Simpson was a bad father. We're kicking off our list with Lisa on Ice, an episode where Homer pits Lisa and Bart against one another, purely for his own approval. The episode starts with Bart and Homer chilling in front of the TV, and Lisa comes in, reminding Bart there's a test tomorrow. But Bart doesn't care, it's gonna snow anyway, so they'll have the day off school. But unfortunately, it does not snow. At school, it's a rough day. Test scores are tragically low among basically all the kids, so Skinner starts handing out academic alerts to let the parents know about it. And surprisingly, Lisa is one of the kids failing. It turns out she's failing gym. Turns out she really does suck at sports. She flunks everything she tries until finally her PE teacher tells her she can pass gym if she joins a Pee Wee team outside of school. Meanwhile, Bart's out here thriving as a sports prodigy, smashing hockey goals and getting praise from Homer left and right for being a winner.
Okay, son, just remember to have fun out there today, and if you lose, I'll kill you!
Homer is basically his personal cheerleader, while Lisa's struggling just to get by. Already, Homer is prioritizing Bart over Lisa purely because of his performance, but eventually Lisa gets good, like really good, and joins the Googers, Apu's hockey team, which just so happens to be Bart's rival team. Oh, it's on now. Lisa becomes an amazing goalie, and suddenly Homer's all about her.
Hey, little buddy, hop in. Up there. I mean my little girl buddy.
Of course, Bart is not handling this well. He gets jealous and Marge tries to cheer him up, but Homer just keeps stoking the flames of sibling rivalry. Bart, trying to impress, starts raising his hand in class like he's the new Lisa. Of course it backfires because, well, he knows absolutely nothing. Eventually, Mrs. Crabapple is just completely done with him being so useless. Even the bullies, Nelson and the crew, try to beat him up for wasting her time. Lisa steps in and scares them off, but instead of thanking her, Bart's angry, convinced that she is stealing Homer away from him. Now it's Bart versus Lisa, and Homer is all about picking sides, egging them on, and honestly just being the absolute worst. But Marge is having none of it. She shuts Homer down hard, calls him out for being a terrible dad, and makes him sleep in the car for a month. Finally, the big game happens, and it is intense. Bart and Lisa face off, but just as Bart's about to take the penalty shot, they both start reminiscing about the good old days, helping each other, sharing ice cream. They hug it out, call the game a tie, and everyone's touched, except Homer, who's bawling that his kids are losers, which is insane. Of course, then a stadium riot breaks out, because who has time for kindness in a hockey game? Homer never lets go of his toxic winner-takes-all mentality, and in Barting over, he doesn't even begin to regret exploiting his young son for money. So it all starts with spring cleaning at the Simpson house, and Bart stumbles on this old box of VHS tapes. One of them is labeled Marge and Homer Get Dirty, and of course, Bart assumes it's a intimate tape. Naturally, he and Lisa have to watch it, but surprise, it's just them carving pumpkins. Lisa pulls out another tape labeled Bart's Sad, but it turns out it's not sad, but Bart's Ad, a cringe-worthy baby mouthwash commercial featuring Bart as baby stink breath. Lisa and Maggie lose it laughing at how ridiculous he looks. Bart, however, is not amused. He storms over to Marge and Homer, demanding an explanation. Homer casually admits he planned to tell Bart on his deathbed and never before. Marge tries to spin it, saying Bart had fun filming the commercials, but then accidentally mentions he made a lot of money. Bart is furious and strangles Homer with his own belt, which he kinda had coming, honestly. The next day, Bart vents to Milhouse, who suggests hiring a lawyer to get back at his dad. Inspired, Bart sues Homer for emancipation. Of course, things escalate far more quickly than anyone expected. At dinner, Bart makes his food into Homer's face and stabs it repeatedly, but Homer and Marge awkwardly try to make peace with their only son. Then Bart's lawyer shows up with a subpoena and bacon to lure Homer to the door. Actually a solid idea. Bart tells Marge it's not about her or the rest of the family. It's just about Homer's terrible parenting. In court, Bart's case is airtight. He even uses a doll to show how Homer swindled him. Homer is outraged, blowing up and threatening everyone who suspects he could be guilty, all but sealing the deal in Bart's favor.
I just want you to know, whatever that judge decides, I'm gonna be the best dad I can.
No judge would send a preteen out on his own.
Woohoo! You're still mine! And you thought I was a bad dad before.
Judge Harm grants Bart emancipation, docking half of Homer's paycheck to repay the stolen money. Although, let's be honest, Bart deserves a lot more. So Bart moves out of the family home and into his own apartment and lives it up, meeting big celebrities of the day like Tony Hawk and Blink-182. Meanwhile, Homer spirals playing baseball with a Bart dummy and realizing what a lousy dad he's been all this time. Marge finally convinces him to apologize, but Bart refuses to come home. Instead, he joins Tony on tour. At the tour, Homer tries to impress Bart by beating Tony in a skate-off with a tricked-out board. It works, but Bart explains the issue isn't about being cool, it never was. It's about Homer never caring about his feelings, or just, I don't know, being a good dad, honestly. After some skater lingo wisdom from Tony, Homer promises to change, to repay Bart fully. Homer stars in a humiliating impotence drug ad. Bart, well, he's good with it because he knows Homer will be remembered as the impotence guy forever. Bart will make it his life's mission to punish Homer, but Bart doesn't have to try in The Parent Rap, an episode where Homer's terrible parenting comes with a brutal punishment. So Bart misses the school bus and Homer has to drive him and Milhouse to school. But on the way, Homer hears about this KPBL radio contest where you win $40 if their van spots you with a party penguin hanging on your antenna. And wouldn't you know it,
Hey, there's a wampum wagon!
End the line, boys!
Bad Parenting 101 right there. Bart and Milhouse, now stranded, start walking to school until they see Chief Wiggum's squad car. They climb inside to mess around, but during their fun, they accidentally shifted into neutral. The car rolls into a tree, and of course, Wiggum assumes they were joyriding in a stolen police car. So straight to juvenile court they go. Milhouse lucks out because Judge Snyder shrugs it off as good-natured boys will be boys fun. Bart isn't worried about either since Snyder's always chill, but then, curveball. Snyder goes on vacation and Judge Harm takes over, and Harm's not here to play. She's right about to send Bart to juvie when she finds out that Homer ditched him on the side of the road. Her solution? Bart and Homer get tethered together. I don't know who I feel worse for. At first, it's a nightmare. They hate this whole damn thing. But surprisingly, they start bonding a little. That is until the tether starts ruining their lives, which is very quickly. Homer can't go to Moe's because no kids are allowed inside. Bart can't escape Homer hogging the couch, and worst of all, Bart nearly has to witness Homer and Marge's, romantic time. They eventually snap. Marge cuts the tether, thinking it'll solve everything. But nope, Judge Harm's high-tech cameras catch them breaking the rules. Her punishment for that? Wooden stocks by the roadside so people can spank them as they pass by.
Yar, you scurvy dog!
Worst parents ever.
I guess that means anything else is fair game, so just grab whatever and go to town, I guess. Meanwhile, Bart's totally unbothered, watching wrestling while Lisa points out how unfair it is that his parents are the ones suffering for his actions. Eventually, Homer and Marge break free using Ned Flanders' tools and decide to get revenge on the woman who did this to them. Now, this is not at all a parenting issue, but it is straight up dumb. They vandalize Harm's houseboat with a big meanie banner, but Poncho, her pet seal, busts them. Homer tries throwing a cinder block at Harm, but ends up sinking her houseboat instead. Well, I guess we always knew that Homer was never an athlete. Back in court, Judge Harm is ready to lock them up for good. But Bart steps in and takes the blame for the whole mess. Harm almost softens for a second, but still plans to punish him. Just then, Snyder comes back, dismisses the case with a boys will be boys, and sends Harm packing. So, I guess no justice will be served on this one. On the way home, Marge makes everyone promise no more law-breaking for a year. But then Homer immediately breaks the promise by running over Han's moment, so he can't even keep up with their own rules. Still, at least he's somewhat trying, unlike Homer's Phobia, which sees Homer basically not even bothering to be a supportive father or even a good guy. So Bart accidentally wrecks the dryer and messes up the gas line, leaving the family with a $900 repair bill. Naturally, the Simpsons are scrambling for cash. Marge tries to sell this authentic heirloom, a Civil War doll that's been in her family forever, to a quirky collectibles shop called Cockamammies, but it's not to be. The shop owner John bursts her bubble, revealing it's an old liquor bottle dressed as a soldier. Marge is bummed, but the family hits it off with John, who's all about campy, kitschy stuff. They even invite him over to check out their weird household knickknacks. Maybe there's some value in their endless junk. Well, of course, everyone loves John. Everything's cool until the next morning when Homer says they should invite John and his wife over sometime for dinner. That's when Marge drops the bomb. John doesn't have a wife because he's gay.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, I danced with a gay!
Meanwhile, Bart starts rocking Hawaiian shirts, twirling in wigs, and picking strawberry icing over chocolate. Now Homer's on a mission to fix Bart. First, he parks Bart in front of a cigarette billboard featuring women in bikinis, thinking it'll spark some interest in girls. Nope, Bart just wants the slim cigarettes, which Homer's convinced are girly. Next up, a trip to the Ajax Steel Mill, the ultimate manly man place, except the exact opposite of how Homer wanted to gaslight his son. Desperate, he takes Moe's advice to make Bart more masculine by taking him deer hunting. Moe and Barney tag along, but surprise again, no deer, so naturally they decide to shoot reindeer at Santa's village instead. But even this backfires spectacularly when the reindeer go wild and start attacking them. The tough guys immediately lose their macho act and freak out. Then in comes John to save the day. With some quick thinking and a Japanese Santa Claus robot, he scares off the reindeer and rescues everyone. Homer is forced to admit that John saved their lives, and while he's still a little awkward, he finally accepts him for who he is. On the drive home, Homer tells Bart he's okay with whatever Bart does and whoever he is. Bart's completely confused until Lisa points out that Homer thinks he's gay, which he probably isn't, but you know, at least Homer does something good. Of course, that doesn't exactly happen very often. Like in Bart Gets Hit by a Car, an episode where Homer does everything he can to profit from Bart's accident. So Bart's out skateboarding like a maniac and bam! He gets hit by Mr. Burns' car. Burns and Smithers start arguing about what to do, while Bart's soul literally floats out of his body. He's climbing this heavenly stairway when he decides to spit over the edge, which naturally sends him straight to hell. The devil checks his case file and realizes it's not his time. Bart's still got some time to be a brat. Bart wakes up in the hospital surrounded by the family and some random lawyer, Lionel Hutz, who hands Homer his card.
Doctor says it's just a bump on the head and a broken toe, nothing serious.
Doctors are idiots. There's no telling what kind of permanent injuries he might have.
But Marge shuts him down hard. They don't need to sue Burns. After Dr. Hibbert says Bart's injuries are minor, Mr. Burns offers Homer $100 to avoid a lawsuit. Homer is insulted by that. It doesn't even cover the bills, so Burns kicks him out, wiping his face with Hutz's sponge card. Homer decides to sue. He wants money no matter what his son has to do. Hutz promises they'll get a cool $1 million, but Bart has to fake being seriously hurt. Hutz even brings in Dr. Nick, the sketchiest doctor ever, to exaggerate Bart's injuries. Marge, of course, hates all this lying and shady behavior. She only wants Burns to pay the bills and apologize, but Homer's all about the big payday and brushes her off. Bart will lie and they will profit. In court, things get wild. Bart tells this ridiculous story about Burns running him over on purpose in a deathmobile, while Burns spins a tale about trying to save Bart's life during a noble mission to deliver toys to orphans. The jury sides with Bart's fake story, but Marge's guilt over this dishonesty keeps growing. Burns invites Homer and Marge to his mansion and offers $500,000 to settle. Marge wants to take it and move on, but Homer's still holding out for the full $1 million. Doesn't matter how much he has to exploit his own son, this leads to a big fight, with Marge calling out Homer's greed and the whole scam. Burns overhears and gets a sneaky idea to win the case in court. The next day, Burns' lawyer calls Marge to testify. She tells the truth. Bart's injuries were minor, Dr. Nick's a quack, and Hutz made them lie. Homer's furious, but the case falls apart. Burns wins and the family gets nothing. Literally, as Burns offers them a check for $0. At dinner, everyone's miserable. Homer blames Marge for ruining his $1 million dream and storms off to Moe's, drowning his sorrows. Marge follows him, apologizing for the betrayal. Homer admits he's unsure if he can forgive her, but after some soul searching and beer, lots and lots of beer, he realizes he still loves her. They make up, hug, and everyone at Moe's cheers. It's a happy, drunken ending that everyone can get on board with, but Homer's back to his old ways in Simpson's roasting on an open fire, which sees him basically teaching his son to gamble over, you know, providing for the family. The episode starts with Homer, Marge, and Maggie frantically racing through the snowy Springfield streets, trying to make it to Bart and Lisa's Christmas pageant. Of course, Homer crashes into a snowbank, and they awkwardly stumble into the school just in time. Lisa dazzles the crowd with a torch dance, while Bart disrupts the carols by belting out a Batman parody. Homer's already bored and grumbling, because why bother supporting his kids when he could be at home watching football? Back home, Marge is busy crafting the family's Christmas letter, carefully sugarcoating their many dysfunctions. Lisa asks for a pony again, Bart wants a tattoo, and Homer's putting up Christmas lights, badly. When Flanders one-ups him with a blindingly brilliant display, Homer's jealousy kicks in. All he wants is to be better than that mustachio jerk. Meanwhile, at the mall, Bart sneaks off to get that tattoo, imagining it'll win Marge's approval. It doesn't. Marge uses their entire Christmas savings to remove it, banking on Homer's work bonus to save the day. But here's the kicker. Homer's boss, Mr. Burns, cancels all of the bonuses for his employees. Homer, ever the optimist, or delusional, decides to keep this a secret and scrambles for a plan B. Of sorts, anyway. He picks up a sketchy part-time gig as a mall Santa, and during a brutal brutal, degrading training period. Despite his best efforts, the paycheck is a measly $13 after deductions, far below what his bonus would have been. Desperate, Homer heads to the dog track with Bart, gambling their last hope on a long-shot dog named Santa's Little Helper, because any good father knows you have to get your kid hooked on gambling from a young age. Naturally, the dog loses badly, but as they sulk in the parking lot, fate throws them a bone. Santa's Little Helper's owner angrily kicks him out of the racing track, and the scrappy pup finds his way into Homer's arms. Bart begs to keep him, and Homer reluctantly agrees, figuring a dog might soften the blow of their giftless Christmas. Back home, Homer starts to confess their financial fiasco to the family, but Bart introduces Santa's Little Helper just in time to save the day. The family instantly falls in love with the dog, and Marjorie assures Homer that he's given them the best gift of all. All he had to do was basically lose everything. The episode wraps up with the family singing carols, badly of course, and Homer strangling Bart when he ruins the song, just in case you thought he was a good dad. Although the chances of you thinking that would be very low, and if you did, Homer versus Lisa in the 8th Commandment will prove you wrong, as Homer betrays Lisa's trust for free cable. This episode kicks off in 1200 BC, Bible times. Homer the thief, which is basically Homer with a beard, is swiping goods while Moses lays down the 10 Commandments. When Moses hits, "Thou shalt not steal," Homer the thief realizes his whole existence is doomed, but it turns out it's all just a hammock nap dream. His existence is still completely meaningless. The real story begins when Ned Flanders declines an illegal cable hookup. Homer, who has no such moral objections, jumps at the chance. Soon, the Simpsons have a treasure trove of free channels, and everyone's loving it except Lisa. After a Sunday school lesson on hell and the 10 Commandments, Lisa spirals into guilt and paranoia. To her, the house is practically melting into a fiery abyss, and it's all because of her father and his bad influence. The devil even pops up on their couch, smirking about how the free cable only cost their souls. Lisa's sure Homer's heading straight to hell for stealing cable, and she's not shy about calling out other small crimes either, like Marge sampling grocery store grapes without paying. Okay, that one is an overreaction. Desperate for moral guidance, Lisa visits Reverend Lovejoy. Honor thy father and mother. Instead, he suggests she lead by example and refuse to watch the stolen cable. Definitely a better idea than getting her dad locked up. Lisa doubles down on her silent protest while the rest of the family settles in for their big night, a pay-per-view fight called about to knock the other guy out. Homer invites pretty much everyone, from his power plant buddies to Apu and Moe. Smithers show up, but as the big fight approaches, Homer starts feeling the weight of Lisa's disapproval. It's not like he's suddenly a moral guy, but seeing her so upset gets to him. Against all his instincts, he decides to skip the fight, dragging Marge and Maggie into his protests. Bart naturally schemes to sneak back in, but Homer shuts that down too. They're gonna be miserable as a family. Finally, Homer makes the ultimate sacrifice. He goes outside to cut the illegal cable. In his own way anyway, he starts snipping random wires like a maniac, which of course temporarily blacks out the entire town. Eventually, he gets the job done, and the screen cuts to static. But hey, he did what his daughter wanted, which is more than can be said for his behavior in Homer the Heretic, an episode where Homer's selfishness overtakes his role model tendencies. It's a freezing Sunday morning, and Marge is dragging everyone out of bed for church, but Homer, absolutely not. He rips his pants, grumbles, and dives back into his warm bed. Marge, furious, bundles up the kids and braves the blizzard alone. Bart wants to know where Dad is, and Marge keeps it vague. While the rest of the family shivers through a church service with a busted furnace, Homer is living his best life at home. He cranks up the heat, dances in his underwear, and whips up his famous space-age out-of-this-world moon waffles. Meanwhile, Marge and the kids are freezing, stuck at church because the door's frozen shut. When they finally manage to escape, Marge's car won't start. So with their day going from bad to worse, they slog home in the cold, only for Homer to gleefully announce his day of luxury. Marge is horrified when Homer declares he's done with church for good. His reasoning? What if they picked the wrong religion and are just making God matter every week? Bart of course eggs him on, and Marge is not having it. Homer is being a horrible parent. That night, Marge prays for divine intervention. Homer, on the other hand, dreams he's chatting with God himself. God is initially ticked off, but eventually hears Homer out. Homer argues that he works hard, loves his kids, and doesn't need to spend Sundays being told he's going to hell. Surprisingly, God agrees and lets Homer off the hook for now. The next week, Marge, Reverend Lovejoy, and even the Flanders gang try to reel Homer back into attending church, but he's not budging. He loves his free time, but then Sunday morning rolls around, and Marge gives him an ultimatum, her or God. Homer shrugs it off and stays home, puffing on a cigar and reading Play Dude. Naturally, he falls asleep, and a cigar sets the whole house on fire. If ever there was a wake-up call, there it is. Apu, part of the volunteer fire department, helps save the day alongside Krusty and Ned Flanders. Homer panics, thinking God is punishing him, but Reverend Lovejoy reframes it. God was working through Homer's diverse group of friends to save him. Feeling humbled, Homer apologizes and agrees to give church another try. Next Sunday, he's back in the pews, snoozing. God pops up in his dream again, reassuring Homer that, hey, religion isn't always a slam dunk, but also, Homer will die soon. 6 months to be specific, so there's that.